Hi, friends! Join us as we dive into the themes, metaphors, and foreshadowing of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We are your hosts, Leah,
Sarah, Tabby,
and whether you're a new viewer or a longtime fan, welcome to Becoming Buffy.
Hey guys, welcome back to our Scoobies Secrets, our spoiler section for Season 5, Episode 14, Crush. And we still have Naj here with us to kind of help us out as Leah is still off honeymooning. So thank you for coming, Naj.
No problem. Happy to be here once again.
Wave to the fans. Stand out on the balcony, wave to the fans.
Hey everyone, I'm happy to be back.
No, I'm so glad you're here. I recognize that coming on twice in a row for an episode, it takes a lot of time. And so most of the time our guests can't come on for 2 episodes in a row. So I appreciate you being able to come on because I always get really excited when we do get to the spoilers because it's like, okay, we can kind of like talk about like how this character fits into the season and even both series overall. And so the gloves kind of come off a little bit, especially with an episode that's kind of meaty like this, where this episode, it's interesting more in retrospect because a lot of people, when you're watching it as the show goes along, you're like, oh, wow, like they went really hard on Spike. But yes, this is totally valid, all that stuff. But then you get to the later seasons and a lot of people tend to forget about this episode because there's other stuff that happens. And obviously with Spike getting a soul and all that stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, it's spoilers. I don't have to talk in code. So this is a really interesting episode to talk about because I feel like in some ways, this episode gets kind of retconned with how some of the writers wrote later episodes and things like that. So I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts and kind of talk through some things. Also, Tabby and I were talking about how like we were so tired and not very articulate the last episode. So this kind of feels like round 2. I can kind of say some of the things I wanted to say and like wasn't able to get fully out. So, this is just a feast for all of you listeners, your ears. So you're welcome.
The spoiler section is like coming home from a long day of work and taking your bra off. That's what it feels like. It's like, oh, finally. It's like, it feels so good. The relief, That's how I feel.
Can't be held back. Nothing holding you up. Just going for it.
Unfilteredness, honestly.
Exactly. All right. So before we get into this stuff that we really, really want to talk about, I'm going to go through a few other things that this episode kind of like hints at or like little things that I noticed. You guys feel free to jump in whenever. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about is we've been watching the steady buildup of Willow kind of increasingly becoming consumed with magic. And I thought it was really interesting, and we talked about it, how like we're still watching Willow deal with the side effects from that one spell that she did with Glory when they teleported her in, what episode was it? Blood Ties. And I thought it was really interesting how, and this is something I love about the show, and like I do have my issues with how Dark Willow is portrayed, and the buildup in the next season and stuff to that. But I think it's so interesting how Willow's addiction stemmed from a good place, like originally, and I like how the descent into Dark Willow is not as black and white as we normally see villains on this show. I do think that the buildup for Willow in each season of her increasingly becoming more addicted to magic is so well done. So that by the time you get to Dark Willow, you're like, I 100% see how this came about. And I think this is one of those instances where like she's talking about how like, oh man, I see the side effects and I know I shouldn't do this spell anymore. But like, I kind of want to because I see that like we've got nothing to go up against Glory. And so you're watching like Willow trying magic and trying new spells because she wants to help the team. And obviously that becomes a much bigger problem coming into the next season. So I thought that was really interesting. So then I know, I'm so sorry, but like we're like 2 episodes away from the body, and
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that Crush is literally right before like I was made to. I was always whatever. I was made to love you.
I was made to love you. Yeah.
Kind of an odd spot. I feel like if it were up to me, I would have switched Crush and Checkpoint. Because I feel like mood wise, it kind of leads more into it because like it's this whole like, I mean, Buffy kind of goes from this in season 5 confidently, I should say. And then like dips after obviously the body. So I feel like having checkpoint right before where she's like realizing her power and then having, I was made to love you. And then it slowly kind of goes like this up until the gift. But sorry, I'm doing a lot of hand gestures, and I realize we're in a podcast. You guys
she
understand.
means we're going uphill, and then it, like,
they can understand.
Downhill.
They get it. But yeah, so I feel like checkpoint should have been right before. I feel like crush is kind of an odd placement.
Yeah, when I first watched it, it kind of felt weird because we're going from this like episode of like Riley's situation, and then we're going to like, Joyce being sick, and then we're thinking that she's like somewhat healed or getting better. Then you deal with, the crush episode, then you deal with like the Watchers, and then, Joyce is on a date and then she dies. And at first I was like, they didn't kill her off. They couldn't do that. They did. So
and poor Naj is like, no.
I was sobbing the whole episode. I was like in tears the whole episode.
I remember. I saw that.
Tabby's like, I was there with
poor
you.
Girl.
It was not getting better for me. Oh, it was horrible.
Wait, okay, so question. I have watched some of your videos. I haven't watched all of them. I found you a little bit later on, so I started following you then. When you did I was made to love you, and you got to like obviously the end, which I always forget is at the very end of that episode. Because I always think, oh my gosh, we have to talk about the body. I was like, no, we also have to talk about I was made to love you too.
The heart launching.
Yeah, right. Did you? Because I know you do your reaction videos. Did you just immediately go to the body and like film your reaction then, or did you have to like take some time?
I like how I did it was I think I was still in college during that time, so I think I did. I think I did that episode, and then I took like a week off for a couple of days. I don't wait normally a week, so I think I took like 2 to 3 days, and I was like, bro, I need to see what happens. But I was like, I was so confident. I was like, she's okay, like she's sleeping.
There's a couple of reactors like Sophie reacts. I love her. She like I think I don't know if it was the body or / like I was made to love you, or if it was the end of season 6, because she got to one of the episodes and she was like, I have somewhere to be. And she's like, but I'm going to watch the next episode because I can't like leave it off. And so when she uploaded the next week, she was wearing the same outfit. And I was like, oh yeah, she had to binge the next episode.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And I think at that time, people were like, oh yeah, make sure you bring tissues. So like every episode in season 5, I was prepared to experience pain. So I think once Josh was on the couch, I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely have to stay there for another day. Because I need to mentally prepare potential terrorists coming to that episode. Sure. And I was crying. It was bad, but rest in peace, Joyce.
Well, and I wonder, kind of going back to what you were saying, Tabs, I always forget Crush is here in this lineup, like in this spot, because like you said, it feels kind of odd because it's played off somewhat comedically for a lot of the episode, even though there's like very really awful things happening. But I think that it fits very well because if you think about it with Checkpoint, Buffy's at the height of her power. And so then you have Spike trying to tear her down. And also you have I Was Made to Love You. In the next episode, Buffy's like really struggling with like, man, I want to be in a relationship. I need to be in a relationship. And so like she pursues Ben, and that's when Xander and her have that conversation about like, he's like, you're you, Buffy, and like we love you for you. And like she kind of like comes to a place where she's like, you know what? I think I'm okay. I think I don't need someone right now. And it's like another step in growth and maturity. And obviously you have like the sex robot and stuff, that whole thing. Joyce is also going on a date too. So I think like they're trying to show like this theme of relationships and all this other stuff, I think, to kind of derail you and make it very shocking and surprising when the body like drops in your lap. But I always think Crush is after the body, but it totally doesn't make sense because I seriously doubt Buffy would be worrying about anything Spike related then. But anyway, okay, all that to say, what I was going to say a few minutes ago is they are soft launching the body, and they're creating a pattern of Buffy entering in the front door and Joyce greeting her as she comes in. And we have in this episode, the front door opens, Buffy enters, Joyce calls from the kitchen, says, Dawn. Buffy says, it's me. And then that's what she says in the body. She comes in, she goes, hello, it's me. And so they've done that a couple times this season. I've noticed where Buffy comes in the front door and calls for her mom, and she either goes to find her mom, or her mom like comes down and finds her immediately. So I think they're trying to create this pattern so that when the body happens, or I guess I was made to love you happens, you're not anticipating or expecting it at all. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're really evil.
I didn't even notice that though. Like, wow, they were already like showing it. It's actually sick, but well played, I guess.
You're like, wow, you manipulated us, but at what cost?
The show is just so mean sometimes. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Okay, so then another thing that I was thinking about. So Buffy tells Xander about how she thinks that Spike has a crush on her or likes her. And Xander's reaction and response is to just like laugh. He thinks it's hilarious and stuff. And it made me think about entropy and Xander's reaction to Buffy sleeping with Spike.
Oof, dude, there is so much laced. Thank you for bringing that up, Sarah. There's so much laced misogyny in season 6 when it is literally all about like female rage and depression and fatigue, and it really just pisses me off. Like, oh my gosh, like I know, and I'm so sorry, y'all, for everyone who's been listening for years now. I know I have the same opinions, but at least I'm consistent. But like, it's like this show is supposed to. I mean, okay, hold on. Let me change my position for this.
She's like, let me sit up.
Okay, the show was really a pioneer for talking about the specific type of feminism and girlhood that I, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had not seen before. I stand by that. Like the type of discussions about like girlhood to womanhood and like the trauma you go through specifically as a girl, a female, like they tackle so many things that are just really important and such a delicate, special way, even though it's coming from a misogynist. I know there are other writers and other women in the room. I know that. It's just a joke. But I like, there are also so many things that are just seep through that are such a cultural, misogynistic stuff. And that's not me like trying to dismiss that. This is me kind of like recognizing that, but also being super pissed off by it. Because when I watched season 6, I have been, other than going through all the stuff that Buffy has gone through season 6, I have been that fatigued. I have been that depressed. I have felt I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm wandering around and I feel nothing. Like I have felt that. I have been Buffy in season 6 in my own way. And let me tell you, in that time of your life, and I was just talking to Catherine, my sister-in-law, about this the other day. Every reaction that I had from people that were close to me during that time, I remember. I remember what was said. I remember how people treated me, what they said about me during that time. Like, I remember all of that. I may not remember everything that I had done or everything that I had said, but I remember when I needed it most, everyone's reaction. Everyone that meant something to me, I should say. And watching season 6 is really difficult for me because there are things that are very real in it, and I do applaud them being real, so it's hard to watch. That stuff it's hard to watch. That's a whole other thing, but I think they do it well in a sense. You feel icky while watching it because it's real. Like the whole trio is real. When I watch that, I'm like, oh, like this is like real incel misogynist and
it's a good depiction of that whole demographic.
Yes. And so I can't really blame the show for that because I think they did it too well. But then there are people like Spike and Xander in season 6 that really just in a different way really just make my skin crawl and make me really angry because it's like it's trying to present itself in one way, and then I feel like this is such a girl thing. A guy could say one thing and I can tell what they're trying to say. It's so hard to explain, but it's like when I'm seeing like Xander say certain things or Spike say certain things, they're flipping it on you subtly. It's only what you learn over time and you're able to recognize the signs. And in retrospect, I'm able to point it out in the moment. It's hard to do now because other than how do you say that episode? I've never said that episode correctly. Entropy, yes. That episode really pisses me off because Xander acting like he's on this high horse when it's really none of his business. And then like slut shaming both the girls and like
after
not mad at Spike.
Anya, like
after making the decision to leave Anya and like humiliate her in front of everyone. Like at least if you're gonna dump her on the wedding day, you stay and you clean up and you kick everyone out and you deal with it and you have conversations. He just was like, I can't do it, and then dipped on the wedding day. Like they're like, huh? Like, anyway.
Xander is one of the most funniest characters I've ever dealt with in my life because I remember like having such a like off feeling about him, but I was like, let me just keep it cute because he's a part of the Scoobs and obviously he's going to be here. And I feel like season 6 is such a like, I mean, this episode was the first step. I was like, okay, you're insane for once again trying to make Buffy seem in the wrong for her and Riley's relationship, shifting. But season 6 is a whole new ballpark for me because like you didn't believe when she told you about Spike having a crush on her this episode. You thought it was very much a joke, but yet you're bewildered that she, had a relationship or something with Spike in season 6. And you feel like you were owed that entitlement to know about it, but yet you spent majority of season 6 egging Anya along thinking that you were going to have a wedding when you knew in your heart you didn't feel it. You weren't taking preparations to figure out guests. You weren't even really, you had a conversation with Giles when you weren't even sure. You had moments where you knew in your heart you weren't ready for it, and you embarrassed her in front of both families. She got belittled by your family. Your family was basically trashing all her siblings and family members on her side, and you watched her get publicly humiliated and then was still, feeling like you were not in the wrong. To the point that Anya felt some type of way about hanging out with the schools due to, them feeling like they probably would take his side over hers. And yet you're mad over Anya moving on, dating, potentially, hooking up with someone as if you weren't trying to move on. Xander, let me just not come at Xander. I don't have time for him.
And I will forever say, like, and I'm not trying to justify Xander's actions at all. I like to really understand why characters and people do what they do, like no matter how depraved and stuff. Because I'm always like, okay, what gets someone to that place?
I understand it. I don't agree.
No, totally. I think that Xander, the writers did a huge disservice by not bringing up Jesse more and honing in on the fact that Xander is so against vampires specifically because of what happened to his friend. I have to actively remind myself of that because I'm like, this is why Xander is the way that he is.
Is it though? Because he was never even mentioned after the first episode. I don't even know if that really. I mean,
yeah,
it was his best friend,
Jesse.
But like it, I really feel like it didn't have much emotional weight after an episode.
I hope, and I think the show like infers that is a big reason why Xander feels that way. I know that in the comics they bring that up. They bring up like Xander saying like, "Hey, like this is why I have such a problem with vampires and stuff." But because they don't flesh that out, and because of the toxicity that we often do see with the nice guy syndrome and stuff, and Xander's entitlement and like, "Hey, I deserve to be loved by Buffy and by whatever woman I am lusting after at the moment. I deserve to be loved by them because I'm a nice guy and I've done all these things." So that's what makes it really, really icky. And I think the show and the writers had such a missed opportunity in not leaning in more into the Jesse thing if they were going to do what they did, which is like his reaction to entropy and all that stuff. Because then you're like, oh, wow, he's coming from a place of trauma, not from a place of entitlement,
Well, that's so true, Sarah, because I've always viewed his hatred of vampires that just genuinely stemmed from Angel and how he felt threatened about Angel because he was in love with Buffy.
Yeah.
And that just triggered his whole, like you said, Sarah, like, I'm such a nice guy. Why doesn't she love me? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, maybe she just doesn't like you romantically. Like, it's not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, she just likes Angel.
Prophecy Girl, like she turns him down, and then we have the whole thing between him and Angel, and like there's tension, and then they go in for seasons, and so it set a precedent. And it's a lot easier to remember that than it is Jesse who died.
He's just a walking hypocritical person because he has dated, he calls himself demon magnet. Like, what's the difference between, I mean, vampires are demon hybrids. Like Anya, she's not a full demon. Like,
right. Oh, yeah.
Like every girl other than like Cordelia was a demon hybrid. So what's the difference? Huh?
Yeah, and even with Spike, even with him and Spike, I feel like he wasn't even as hostile to Spike in some degrees, like Angel. You see him and Spike dynamic be played as like a comedic relief, or like, oh, he's just doing it for Buffy, so he doesn't really care. Even when he was staying with him in the basement or whatever, he wasn't even as hostile to this vampire who was, once again, yes, he has a chip, but he doesn't have a soul. And you didn't act different to this guy who was buddies with Angel / Angels for, decades. But Angel just breathes and you're like, he has to die. Let me lie to Buffy about him actually having a soul. Like, this doesn't make sense. You can't pick and choose which demons you're going to go after, or which ones you're going to validate, which ones you're going to really be hostile towards. And that's why sometimes with Xander, it just always comes as a hypocrite move. Always. It's either he doesn't see the full picture, he sees one side differently, and it makes it hard defending some of his actions because, like, you cannot critique what Buffy does. You cannot critique what Angel does. You cannot critique what other demons do, and then you don't take it on your own merit as well. Buffy has to tell you about her dealing with Spike and Entropy, but you couldn't even talk to your own fiance about your own feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It's so hard because, like, Xander's reaction in this episode to, like, laugh, I'm not, like, I understand why he did it, and, like, because it does seem comedic at this point, but it's what he says to her, talking about how, like, like, it's hilarious, and then how he's heard about how Dawn is now has a crush on Spike and not himself. That reinforces that. And so it's no wonder that Buffy doesn't want to open up to Xander and to the others about all of the pain that she's in and, like, her coping mechanism, and get the help that she needs because of reactions like this episode where everyone is slut shaming her, being like, well, did you encourage him? Did you egg him on? All of that, all of those messages are reinforcing Buffy's shame when it comes to season 6.
Every woman has had someone say that to you, and you feel guilty for a man's attention towards you that you don't want. Oh,
you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing to encourage? There's something I'm doing, which it's always good to be introspective, but, like, there's so much excuse for men's crappy behavior.
Even if, like, that comment really just, it really.
It was a choice for this episode. I don't understand why they put that in.
It's on the same lens of, like, it just left my brain. I'm so mad.
Go Fish.
Okay.
Hold on. I was thinking about how this is the second time.
Go Fish.
Go Fish. Because I was listening to y'all talk about it a couple weeks ago, and how she tried to open up to them about the situation, and she was basically clowned, and had her feelings invalidated, and her friends barely even cared. And this is the second. This is the second strike. So it makes it's not a shock that by season 6, she's not telling them anything, because you showed twice, and maybe even more times that we probably not even aware of.
Oh, I think it's more than that, but that was like the first big time. Yes, I hate that episode already. And my jaw was on the floor the first time we watched that, and I was like, wait, no, they did not. And then I was like, well, this set a precedent for everything else.
Yeah, when we watched it for the podcast, I had no memory of that conversation in the library with the whole gang, and I was shocked. Like, you guys, we could roll the tape, but like us, like when we talk about it in the podcast, I was like, dang, I don't remember this at all. This is really sad.
I don't remember either.
Yeah,
and mostly because I just skipped that episode. But
true, it's one of my least favorites. Genuinely,
especially from season 2.
Well, and then I think about an Entropy. Getting back to that, like how after, Xander yells at Anya and Buffy, and then I think he says, like, the words, "You disgust me," or something like that, and then walks away. Like a couple scenes later, we see Buffy come and apologize to Xander.
That's what gets me, because
at least she says something to him in the beginning of Seeing Red, though. I do appreciate the conversation in the apartment where she's like, it's none of your business what I do. I'm like, okay, at least we had the bare minimum there. Thank you, Joss. Thank you, Marty.
We're like, crumbs over here, crumbs. All right. So
Sprinkles.
getting off Xander, because he's not the worst offender, obviously, of this episode. First of all, I kind of hinted at this in the spoiler-free episode, but that moment where Buffy comes down, and we talked about how like the basement, I guess if you'll call it, the cave part of Spike's crypt is intentional, like them putting like the skulls and showing the coffins and stuff. It's supposed to be like, this is who Spike really is underneath the veneer of being so supposedly civilized, I say in quotations. He's a soulless vampire who hates women and believes that he's better than them and that he should own them. And so I thought it was a very intentional choice for the entire episode to have like Buffy descend down there and like it's kind of revealed who Spike really is. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this set we see again in season 6 in As You Were. Buffy has she gets a bit of a reality check in that episode when Riley comes back and says, hey, I'm looking for the doctor. And I know everybody has mixed feelings about the whole doctor thing, which kind of just gets thrown in there. And so I won't talk too much about that at this point because I haven't seen the episode in a while. But it's revealed that Spike is actually the doctor and he's hiding some eggs. He's basically like a drug dealer, but he like deals in like demon spawn and stuff. And he's helping the demons out basically. And which is obviously the opposite of what Buffy does. And Buffy gets a bit of a reality check when she's confronted with who Spike really is. Like she's talking to Riley and she's like, no, like Spike is helpless, or Spike is he's just Spike. Like he wouldn't do these things. Like no, and the entire episode she's kind of justifying her own sleeping with Spike because she's like he's neutered. He's not a huge deal. Like it's okay. And Riley's like, have you forgotten? He even says like, have you forgotten who Spike really is? And so they go down and they find all those eggs in this exact same place. And it's kind of interesting because it's directly above where Spike and Buffy were having sex in the crypt. And so it's this idea of like, as much as Spike tries to be domesticated, as much as he tries to pull off this whole I've changed, I'm different from who I used to be, and like and he even tells Buffy like, yes, I love you and stuff. She has a reality check and is like, oh my gosh, this is who Spike actually is. She becomes disgusted, and then they have that moment where Buffy chooses to grab the bomb from Riley's his belt and explodes the entire crypt. And that's the episode that Buffy breaks it off with Spike because she sees who he really is deep down. And I think she's wanted so badly to be just numbed to it all. And she breaks up with him in this room. They come down there, and that's when you have Spike kind of like in the rubble and everything. And she shows up looking, amazing for the first time all season, looking a lot happier and fresher. And she just tells him she can't do it. And I thought that was so interesting. It's in that same set.
And calls him William, which is his government name.
Yeah.
That's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious. I thought that was, it's very intentional though, because they're trying to remind us of who Spike is. Okay, so then the last like little tidbit I have before we get into the meat of things is so on the train with Xander. So Buffy sits down on one of the seats, and IMDb says perfectly fitting into the tape outline of the dead body that used to sit there, foreshadowing Buffy's death a few months later. That, along with Buffy's words to Tara, are really interesting to me. So Tara is talking about Quasimodo, and she's like, yeah, like, no, Quasimodo should not be given flowers for him trying to change for Esmeralda, because he's, ultimately doesn't really change. It's not true change if he's only trying to change for her and all this stuff like that. And her and Willow are going back and forth because Willow's like, oh, but he's trying, so therefore like we should give him a pass, obviously reflecting Buffy and Spike in this episode. And then Tara asks Buffy, well, what do you think? Because Buffy's just there. And Buffy says, the test isn't till tomorrow, right? She's like, I'll think about it then, which is interesting because anytime in this season in particular, they talk about like tomorrow and things like that. Like that's the next day. And we know at the end of this season, Buffy like ends up dying as the sun is rising and stuff. And so this idea of like tomorrow, it's almost like it's a nod kind of to season 6 with her and Spike. When she's resurrected, when she's with Spike, she's going to think about all the moral implications of that then. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was very interesting. And then this kind of leads into what I want to talk about. But I meant to mention this in the spoiler-free part, but I didn't. And this is disgusting, but it needs to be said. So there's that mic drop line from Buffy in the episode where she tells him, Spike, the only chance you had with me was when I was unconscious. And he like rages, and that's when he just like loses it. The script actually literally says this. So Buffy says, Spike, the only chance you had with me was I was unconscious. It says, Spike registers his disappointment. Why hadn't he thought of that?
Who wrote the script, may I ask?
Well, yeah, who wrote that?
David Fury. I just thought that was very important, and I want to put that in there because clearly Spike is going, oh man, I missed my chance to have my way with Buffy. If she had been unconscious, then I could have done whatever I wanted with her. And I want to point that out because Seeing Red is next season, and this is consistent. Anyway.
Sarah just loves to traumatize us. Brings up
I know, I'm sorry.
Sorry. The script.
I want to talk about how a lot of the writers and showrunners all had different ideas on how the lore of the show should be and where they wanted the characters to go and how everything should play out.
Yeah,
and
that's evident.
Yes. And I think that's a big reason why the last few seasons struggle, specifically with Buffy and Spike. And we're going to start seeing this later on, even this season, which is why a lot of people struggle with season 5, because you have this episode and the next, which the Buffy bot and all this stuff. And then by the end of the season, it's like Buffy's a lot more sympathetic to Spike and stuff. And so a lot of people feel like there's some whiplash and some inconsistencies there, with Spike becoming a lot more sympathetic. And one of the biggest disagreements of the show, even to this day, is can vampires love? And did Spike love Buffy? And did Buffy love Spike? Like before the soul and all that stuff. I'm going to read a couple of quotes. So Joss says this. He was actually saying this around the time that this season was dropping. He says, most people are guided by you should be good, you're good, you feel good. And most demons are guided simply by the opposite star. Spike is getting more and more completely conflicted, but basically his natural bent is towards doing the wrong thing. His court's creating chaos, whereas in most humans is the opposite. And then David Fury says, my conviction is that Spike can never be redeemed. He is a murderer who would be killing innocent people were he not suffering from chip affliction. And then All Things Philosophical talks about like the dichotomy between all the different writers and showrunners. And they say, for Fury, a soul makes all the difference in whether or not a vampire can be truly redeemed. Unsouled vampires are inherently incapable of seeing the value of good. On this view, Spike has no choice about being evil. He can delude himself that he's good, but it's just his passion doing the talking. Spike's good, in quotation, deeds are the self-serving acts of a demon in the thrall of his obsessive, selfish love. Let's call this viewpoint Fury's rule. It is having a soul that gives you a choice about whether to do good or evil. So David Fury clearly establishes this. And Tabby, I don't know if you remember this, but when we did Buffy versus Dracula, Fury was the only writer that hated that episode because he felt like it went against the lore.
Oh, you told me this. Yeah.
Yes. So David Fury's very much like, we established this the first few seasons, which I'm like, hey, I'm Team Fury, honestly. And he's like, we made these guidelines, and now we're like moving the goalposts just because a few writers like Jane Espenson, Marty Noxon, Joss Whedon really like Spike and are wanting to create fan fiction because they're living out some of their fantasies. So David Fury says, a vampire with a soul is a very different thing. It is still a choice for Angel. Yes, he's driven by guilt, but he's also driven by a bloodthirst. He's not sure if he can be redeemed, and if I can't be redeemed, what's the point? Why can't I just go killing people? That's the interesting dilemma for Angel. To afford that kind of conscious choice on a character like Spike would diminish both of them. Yes, hands down. The last quote from David Fury is, Spike, boyfriend, it raises a lot of moral questions about our characters. And this was quoted during season 5. It raises a lot of moral questions about our characters, about the kind of people they would date. It would speak volumes about Buffy in a negative way if she were to reciprocate. She is a strong, moral woman, and for her to suddenly go, hey, he is kind of cute, that would diminish her character. So Very interesting. I'm curious to see what his response is to season 6 and 7, because I know he was still very much a part of the show at that point. But my question for you guys is, did Buffy love Spike as a soulless vampire? Not talking about season 7, talking about season 6. What are your guys' thoughts?
Are you asking me that as if you as if you think I would say yes? I feel like we've talked about this several times. Yeah, definitely not. I like
absolutely not.
Even in Dead Things, like Tara mentions, but if you love him, that's okay. The look on Buffy's face is like she doesn't say anything, but like her face is not like I do love him, I feel bad. It's like I feel bad because I don't love him and I'm sleeping with him. That's exactly the emotion I've seen from her face in that moment. Like, it's very clear to me. I have not seen, Naj knows, you guys know, I watch lots of people on YouTube reacting, and most of the time when people watch that episode, whether or not they're like for their relationship, they can see that. And it's kind of a cool way that I can kind of see people like reacting to stuff for the first time. So Sarah Michelle Gellar's acting in that scene is very widely accepted as the same thing. Whether or not people are projecting if she does love him during that time. But I feel like people act as if emotions are not nuanced, and you can find somebody sexually attractive and not love them, but also have some sort of feelings towards them. That those things do exist apart from each other. So also, I don't think that you can be in that mental space that she's in and also be like, this is my opinion, also be like healthily in love with somebody. So I don't think that she was wanting to. I don't think she was willing. I do think he was attractive, obviously. Otherwise, she wouldn't have slept with him. But it's like, or maybe she would have. I don't know. Whatever. But like, I think that the only time she allowed herself was like middle to late season 7 to actually like allow herself to even think about him in a way that would be a healthy I love you sort of way. Because you have to, like, she tells him in season 6, she's like, I don't trust you enough to love you. And like those two things for Buffy are very much, they go with each other. That's very canonical. She talks about that with Angel in season 2. So I feel like we would be rejecting a lot of Buffy's character that's been very built up for seasons. And we would not be understanding her if we would say that she did love Spike in season 6. I think that he does kind of bring out a side in her that she doesn't like. And people can see that and project and think that she's like rejecting her feelings towards Spike. I think that that's not media comprehension. That's not, understanding stories in front of you on the television. Sorry, that sounds really mean, but I feel like sometimes I do feel
fair,
like,
though.
But I do feel this is my truth. Sometimes I feel like some people just don't get it, don't understand like the nuances a lot in this show. Like they find it like entertaining and like a very fun,
superficial, which is fine.
Well,
there's a place for that.
But like, I wouldn't even go far to say superficial, but more of just like a entertaining fantasy type show, and can like be really impacted by the depth and the deepness of the show when it's really obvious. But understanding characters to a whole deeper level and understanding the nuances of why they make decisions they do is a whole different thing. So I feel like sometimes that's not really as understood as it should be.
Yeah. Me personally, I don't think Buffy loved him in season 6. Not even in season 7. Just me. I think season 7, their relationship was just so toxic to the point that I couldn't even understand him for her to logically even assume that. 1 minute they're smashing, the next they're fighting, and I just think Buffy wasn't even in the right headspace to even think about love, because she's holding in, first of all, she's been a couple episodes holding in the fact that she was in peace and her friends dragged her out of, heaven. And, she's trying to process everything. Her friends left her to pay bills, get a job, fend for herself. And then you have Spike, who's acting like a lost puppy, just following her everywhere. So everywhere she goes, he's there. And I just think he brings out something in her that she didn't even like. She was disgusted with, to the point that when she broke down with Tara, I was like, finally somebody she can open up to. Like even the infamous balcony scene, like you got Angel saying that she deserves to be in the light, and you got Spike talking about something she deserves to be in the dark with him. That's not something that Buffy wants to hear, especially when she was in the light. She was in heaven. She was in bliss. She was, finally stress free from the first time ever. And she's brought back into this world where she is basically getting attacked by 3 nerds who are coming at her for no reason. She's basically struggling. She has her sister who has, who's dealing with stuff. And, Spike is pretty much the only thing that she can handle without really caring for her. So it wouldn't make sense for her to deal with all this stuff, coming back, dealing with, being back into adulthood, trying to balance her life when she's been dead for 6 or so months, and to think that she loves Spike. Absolutely not. And I think with a lot of fans, they become clouded with this idea of merging seasons and forgetting stuff that happened. Because for me, when I'm in season 6, when I'm watching Spike and Buffy, I'm thinking about what he did in season 5, this sad spot. I'm thinking about when he almost tried to, in season 6, moving forward, I'm thinking of all the moments that lead up to seeing Red, which is not out of character. And, I'm just like, there's so many incidents and so many backgrounds and flashbacks on Spike's part where it's like, he is not what Buffy needed at that moment. Yes, she was depressed. A lot of her friends didn't understand her. But do I think she sat there and said, I love him? Absolutely not. The only time I think she would think of it cohesively was maybe season 7. And even then, clearly you can see that she thought about it very late. So, no.
Yeah, and that's all fair. And I realized I probably asked you guys the wrong question because I was thinking about, and I think Naj, you mentioned it just now, but I was thinking about season 7 in, I think it was Beneath You, where everyone kind of was talking to Buffy about Spike, and it's when Spike comes back into the series after getting a soul, and they don't know he has a soul at that point, but we have that moment where Buffy says, I'm not in love with Spike anymore, and she's referencing season 6. And so a lot of people, a lot of fans, I mean, if we're taking Buffy at her word, are like, hey, Buffy said she was in love with him, so therefore she was in love with him even in season 6. And I agree with both of your guys' interpretation. I don't think she was in love with him in season 6 at all. And here's my explanation for why Buffy would have said what she said in season 7. So because of everything, and we have to look back in Buffy's history, right? Everything that happened between her and Angel and surprise and innocence, that's the first time Buffy ever had sex, was with her soulmate, right? And I think Buffy views sex, and I think we have lots of canonical evidence for this. Buffy views sex as something that only happens between people that love each other, which is another reason why she hates herself so much in season 6. Because I think she doesn't understand hookup culture. You could just hook up with someone. We see that with Parker. She thinks her and Parker had sex, therefore they're boyfriend and girlfriend now. He's got to be as infatuated. She had to have this deep emotional connection with him before they had sex. Those are her only experience. And then Riley too, obviously. Those are her only experiences with having a deep, intimate relationship with someone like that, and also having sex. So when it comes to her and Spike, she's going, well, I must love him because I am having sex with him and I want to have sex with him and I'm attracted to him. And so I think that leads partly to her self-loathing. And so her love for Angel is what caused her to sleep with him and therefore became the baseline for all of her romantic relationships. And it's something that obviously we know that Buffy, with the Parker situation, she clearly didn't want just a hookup. She wanted more. And so I think Buffy's words of I don't love Spike anymore in season 7 are her way of rationalizing what she did with Spike, because Buffy believes that sex is more than casual, even though she clearly was just sleeping with Spike because she wanted to feel something and not because she loved him. So I think when it comes to that line, I think we have to think about where Buffy's coming from. And all that stuff. But I was curious about your guys' thoughts.
Sometimes I feel like characters will say or do things that really just I take with a grain of salt, because like
you feel like you can see the writer behind it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because sometimes I'm blanking on examples, and usually y'all know I'm the example queen, but sometimes I'll watch something and I'm like, this isn't the character. And I could tell it's the writer projecting. And so there's this weird, hard, confused line in between, like, do I take everything the character says and does as canon, or do I look at it and be like, the show is telling me something different, but the character's speaking to me something that technically should be correct. It's the whole like show don't tell. And so sometimes when they tell you something, you're like, this doesn't add up to how the actress or actor has breathed life into the character. And so as I'm watching the show, I'm like, I didn't see that. Sarah Michelle Gellar has also gone on record to kind of talk about how she also didn't really see that in season 6. And so I think like when she says that, I'm like, that's cool for you, Buffy. I don't know if I agree with you. But people have used that that idea to kind of talk about seeing red with Spike. And we've talked about this several times, and I really just dislike bringing that up all the time. It's really just such a trigger warning, but like that is in character for Spike. So yes, that is a projection, a huge step that the writers should not have taken. I'm coming on record to say that. I have been saying that, but I need to say that again. If you're popping into this one episode, just so you know, I have always stood on that. Yes, they went too huge, just like extreme, and they didn't take the precautions and the care and the healing that should have taken place after that. And I kind of talked about this. I went on it a little bit, and Sarah stopped me before we started recording because she was like, "You need to wait till the episode." So I'll kind of say it now, but like,
no, do it. Go ahead.
Like, I'm gonna not say it as well as I was going to because I kind of forgot where I was heading with it originally. But I have really a hard time watching or reading something where a female character, the main female character, is just kind of thrown in that she'll get like sexually assaulted or raped or almost raped or whatever in a book, and there's just no resolution to that other than like her bonding with the main love interest and him like having this whole like justice response and then them like getting closer because of that. I freaking hate that so much. Like, I feel like most women, this is well documented, most women, I think it's like, I forget what the percentage is. Leah knows the actual percentage. I wish she was on this podcast. We were talking about this like last year when she brought it up. But I don't know what the percentage, but it's an incredibly high percentage that most women have been harassed in some sort of way, either like verbally or sexually, meaning like physically or like sexually, verbally, I don't know, like being catcalled or like made to feel uncomfortable or being actually physically sexually assaulted. Like the statistics are incredibly high for that. If we're looking at the actual term of sexual assault or verbal assault, like it's like most women have experienced one of those. And so when you use that as a plot device to bring two people together or to kind of like move along a side character story arc and not address the trauma that this girl goes through, it really just makes me so angry. The only time you should bring that in is like if it's like dealt with properly. And it really, really, really pisses me off watching this show. And it's like when I watch that Seeing Red scene, and this is going to sound really weird, but it's very real, and I respect the way that it's not respect. I understand how real the scene is. When I'm watching it, I've only seen it a handful of times. I don't particularly love to watch it because it's so real. Like, the camera lingers. It keeps going. There are
There's
multiple.
no music.
There's no music. Like the things that he's saying, the continuation of what's happening, it's very real. And I have not, and I've seen lots of different TV shows and movies, and there have been a plethora of scenes kind of like that have been thrown in and stuff I've watched, and it makes me really mad. But I've never seen a scene quite like that before. And so what really makes me extra mad is having a scene that graphic, having it that real, that long, that traumatizing, and then also not having a equal or better healing from Buffy and like addressing it. So I forget what my original point was going to be, but when people say that like that's not in Spike's character, like they're looking at what the show's showing us, not what the show is telling us, and it's like both those things are accurate in that sense. So I don't think I don't know. It's so hard because like we're talking about like do I take what the show is telling me always? You know, or do I look at the nuances of some characters and recognize, oh, the writers didn't write this correctly in here. But in that case, seeing red is both those things. It's telling us and it's showing us. So like maybe we should listen in that case.
Yeah. But also like Buffy can like love can be different things. It can be physically, it can be emotionally, there can be different types of love.
Yeah.
And if Buffy would say that she had a moment where she thought she loved or she did love Spike, it probably wouldn't have been the same love that her and Angel had. It probably would have been physical because maybe she loved what he was putting down in the bed. I have no idea. But like, I just feel like it was very odd to say because what moment was it when he, you know, when y'all were fighting, when y'all were smashing a building that was crumbling, when he ambushed you when you were coming home from work and y'all did it in the grass in the front of the house. Like, I don't know what moment would have been emotional romantically for me. I just find it hard to believe that season 6 is supposed to build that Spike is the only one that knows Buffy. He understands her. Nobody else does. All her friends are not paying attention to her. And then you see Seeing Red, which I only watched it once. I reacted to it at one time, and I don't think I will ever watch it again because I don't think I ever had an attachment to a female main character compared to Buffy. Watching Buffy grow from like a 16-year-old girl to 22, 23, and seeing this guy who has been shown to be trash in multiple seasons betray them when he has a chance, you know, think that after she leaving him, he's entitled to take what he wants from her again. He thought that the balcony was, okay, that's a success, I can do it again. And to watch this long scene of her pleading, this powerful slayer who like nobody can bring her down, be this emotionally vulnerable when a place where she's about to take a shower. Watch this guy just say that, oh, well, when I'm inside you, like, just sing all this stuff. And then no repercussions afterwards blew me. And I think what makes me so bitter about season 7 and why I cannot stomach season 7 either is it's like we're being gaslit because Buffy doesn't handle it, but Buffy isn't, you know, she doesn't talk about it. She throws it under the rug. Like, you know, you got Dawn mentioning it. You got Xander mentioning it. The people that was basically on Spike's like number one shoulder for previous seasons, he's changed. Dawn saying this episode, you know, he has a chip. He's like Angel. This clearly is not. And to watch everybody tell Buffy, like, you're too protective over this man, Spike. Why? And you're, you know, and then you got her just saying it multiple times. He's changed. He has a soul. He changed. He has a soul. He did not. Because he didn't change until he got to Angel. 1. 2, this man he's supposed to be feeling sadness. Like, Angel has been feeling sadness about people he killed for decades, centuries. Spike literally looked the man in the face of somebody's mother he killed. Didn't care. Flexed the leather coat. Got validation that he could kill this man. This man has a soul and he's changed.
It's also really rich that everybody uses he has a soul now, he's changed as an excuse without actually showing us that he's changed because Warren has a soul. So apparently it's not the soul that is the clincher for whether or not you're a good person or not. And that's something that's so odd to me that they spent all of season 6 showing this. And then it's just like, he has a soul now, or he's trying.
Doesn't matter.
It's like, well, Warren was kind of trying a little bit too, but like he also was a dirtbag. Like he was worse than a dirtbag, but you know, he's an awful, awful guy. He was a rapist. He was all this other stuff too. Like I just don't like. They even deal with Andrew more in season 7 than they do with Spike. I mean, granted, Andrew needed to have all his stuff talked about because of how awful he was with Warren and stuff. But there seems to be so much accountability for every single character except for Spike. And it's bizarre.
And the out of characterness, that's a complete lie because listen, I could go down, run down of a lot of stuff that he's done that is very on brand. You've clearly seen it in this season with him stealing everything that Buffy has, walking around, harassing her friends, stealing her clothes. There's a lot of things that he does that's not out of character. So this the writers did it because they hate Spike. Clearly not. This man should have been dead since he walked on the scene.
Yeah. And I agree. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say this so much in season 6 and especially in season 7. But he's just repeating old patterns as we've seen with Fool for Love. And that remains true throughout the rest of the show. And it's such a shame. And it actually does Spike a disservice. Like, people who are fans of Spike should also be frustrated by how much of a disservice it does for his character by not having his motivations be separated from Buffy at all through the rest of his time on the show. It made it difficult to make a distinction between pre-sold and post-sold Spike because of the fact that they just always have him desiring to have Buffy's approval or whatever. And I believe even in Chosen, I believe he died in Chosen for mostly the right reasons, but he was still doing it for Buffy. And so even though there was a nobleness to it, you're like, yeah, you can love her unselfishly now. You're capable of it, but it's still all for a girl. And that's just a repeating of the cycle. And so that's not growth or change at all, which is what the heartbeat of this show is. The heartbeat of this show is to grow, to change and be a better person and to develop. And it's about adolescence. That's all about change and one of the most formative parts of your life. And Spike is the antithesis of this. And so by keeping him in this one specific niche, because it was cool and popular and it's what the writers and the fans liked, what ended up suffering was the story, the lore, and Buffy. Yeah. So obviously, the writers, I will say, are very clever. You can see where they're going with season 6. Obviously, this conflation of Spike or Spike conflating himself and Buffy, saying, hey, you're just like me, and approaching her at the Bronze when she's alone and vulnerable. We see that over and over again. Over time, Buffy internalizes this. She's already starting to kind of think that, hey, maybe my power is rooted in darkness, and that means I'm dark. And so you see that happen in season 6. So I don't like it. I don't like where it's going, but I understand completely and perfectly why Buffy does what she does in season 6 and why she's in the headspace that she's at. She is devoid of hope, devoid of purpose, devoid of meaning, and has lost a lot of her ties to the world. And Spike takes advantage of that. And we see the beginnings of that in this episode. So... all right, guys, that is Crush. Naj, thank you so much for joining us and coming on and talking and giving us your perspective. I always appreciate it. So come on anytime.
Definitely. I will be trying to come ASAP. It was fun being here and talking to you guys because I don't really talk to a lot of people about Buffy besides Leia. So it's happy to be out and saying what I like and dislike or what I want to see.
You guys can find Naj on YouTube and listen to her reactions. Naj, are you done with Angel yet? You just the last episode, right?
Yeah, the last episode will come out tomorrow.
Okay. It'll be out by the time this episode airs and stuff. Crazy. But yes, you guys should listen to her reactions for Buffy and Angel. She's going through Charmed right now. What else are you going through? Do you have any other plans?
Teen Wolf right now. I'm watching another Teen Wolf episode tonight, actually.
Are you going to do Vampire Diaries? Have you done Vampire Diaries? That one.
There's a huge fandom that could be brought in.
Yeah. I already watched Vampire Diaries, the originals and legacies, so I'm going to have to protect my peace on that.
All right, then. Okay. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Let us know your thoughts. You guys can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Tumblr at Becoming Buffy Podcast. You can email us at becomingbuffypodcast@gmail.com. Special shout out and thank you to our producers, Christine, CJ, Kate, Omri, Paul, and Kashan. Thank you so much to all of our listeners, and we will talk to you all next time.